I wanted to start this video off with a mini theory I came up with a few days ago when I was binging the FNaF VR GT Live videos. Keep in mind I don't believe this theory, but it has to do with FNaF VR, so I thought I'd bring it up just for fun and get you guys thinking. It's definitely a stretch and some things don't work as well as the alternative, but it's technically possible, so I wanted to share it with you guys. In the Fazbear Fright story In the Flesh, ironic considering that I was watching the GT Live videos that prompted me to make this theory, and In the Flesh is the one with the Mpreg map pad. But in that story, there's a completely random scene where some dude hacks into the Fazbear systems and plays the unfinished VR game that they're working on early. Keep in mind, a hacker plays the game early while it's unfinished and still being beta tested. The game also has a malicious Afton-esque code just like in FNaF VR, where we play as a beta tester, and the malicious Afton-esque code is of course Glitchtrap in FNaF VR. But it's the hacker part of In the Flesh that interests me, because it's something that happens in the story that doesn't go anywhere at all and is included so randomly. It seems like it's trying to tell us something, but what? Well, who else do we know from the FNaF VR and Pizzaplex era of FNaF who is a hacker? Gregory. Gregory is patient 46, who was absolutely possessed by Glitchtrap, so that begs the question of how Gregory got infected with Glitchtrap. There's a few different ways this could go, but one of them is that he hacked into the FNaF VR game to play it early, and Glitchtrap found him and took control. This makes a lot of sense either way to me, but what if we take it a step further? What if what we play in FNaF VR actually is the experience of Gregory rather than Vanessa? Now, this immediately holds the problem of hearing Vanessa's voice when we put on the mask, and while I agree we most likely do play as Vanessa, I just wanted to suggest this idea because, like I said, it's possible. Hearing Vanessa's voice when we put on the mask could just be something that Gregory hears when he puts on the mask, a one-sided conversation which we only hear one side of, the side of the person actually wearing the mask. Think about the fact that if we play as Vanessa and she's talking to Glitchtrap, shouldn't we, since we are Vanessa, hear what Glitchtrap is saying if she does? Isn't that a little weird that we don't? Doesn't debunk it by any means, it's just a bit strange. But the reason I came up with this theory at all is because whenever I watch people play FNaF VR, they always say the same thing. Our player character in FNaF VR is very short, like we play as a child. Now, this makes perfect sense if we assume it's just to make us feel young and small and powerless, and that could very well be the case. In fact, it probably is. But what if it's more than that? Granted, it might not be, and let's be honest, it probably isn't, but what if it's meant to tell us that the character we play as literally is a child? Gregory. There's also the fact that you can eat and die from choking on action figures, which is something that kids do, and when we do that, you die from choking, and the death screen says follow the leader, which is also a children's game. It could very well mean nothing, and keep in mind this is just something I randomly thought of and I don't believe it, but I thought that since this video is based around FNaF VR, I might as well mention it at the top of the video. So now that that is all out of the way, let's move on and start talking about what we missed in FNaF VR. So I didn't really explain in the intro what this video is going to be about, so I'll do so now. I did a video over 10 months ago now in the aftermath of the release of the Tales from the Pizzaplex Book 2, but I haven't talked about the idea since then, and I wanted to sort of remake that video and include more information, better ideas, and hopefully better quality. The video will essentially be the same premise as that other one and will follow a lot of the same evidence and theories, but I have more and better stuff to talk about now. It's always nice to essentially remake theories I made a while ago with more up-to-date evidence and better quality, and I've done videos like this on many of my theories before, so I guess now it's just this one's turn. Keep in mind this video isn't definitive, it's very much a lot of speculation, but a lot of the stuff I'm bringing up makes sense to me and provides answers for certain things throughout the series, both past and present. FNaF VR confirms that at least the first 3 FNaF games are actually games in universe to some extent, but we know they absolutely still canonically happened even though they were games, contrary to what MatPat suggested in his Golden Freddy Never Exists video. I made a video essentially debunking that idea with a couple of my friends, which you can go watch if you want, but in the recent story The Monty Within from Tales from the Pizzaplex Book 7, it's revealed that FNaF 6 was also made as a game, implying all games from FNaF 1 through 6 are games. But we know for a fact that FNaF 6 was a real event because of the appearance of FNaF 6 underneath the Pizzaplex. FNaF 6 requires sister location of FNaF 3 to happen, and sister location itself also requires FNaF 3 and 4 to happen since the ending cutscene has the burned down FNaF 3 location in it, and the hidden cameras show areas from FNaF 4. FNaF 3 also shows parts like pieces of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, the puppet, and the toy animatronics, as well as the Phantom animatronics, which are the animatronics from FNaFs 1 and 2, meaning that if FNaF 3 happened, then FNaF 1 and 2 did too. That, among all the things that I talked about in a video from a while ago, confirms that while they're games in universe, FNaF 1 through 6 are still real events that actually happened. FNaF 1, 2, and 3 are all real events, but they're made as games and appear in FNaF VR. There's also levels in FNaF VR outside of the FNaF 1, 2, and 3 levels that are taken from FNaF 4 and Sister Location, like Fun with Plush Trap, Fun with Balloon Boy, Funtime Foxy, and Nightmare Fredbear, and even Pizza Party shows the story of how Afton lured and killed Gabriel. That means that those minigames were canon events too. But if that's the case, then why would only some of the minigames be real events? Is it possible that all of the FNaF VR minigames were real? Or at the very least, is it possible that all of them show canon elements to different capacities? Now, saying it's possible is one thing, but providing actual reasons for it to happen is another, so that's what we're going to do. Funtime Freddy and Circus Baby's levels in FNaF VR have always stuck out to me a little, because the other two Night Terrors levels were actually about Nightmare animatronics, but these ones have Funtime animatronics in the house for some reason. But why would they be up here? How would they be up here? In Sister Location, we learn that the Funtimes are perpetually trapped down here unless they take over someone's body. Or at least, that's what everyone remembers. But if you really listen to what Baby says in her monologue at the end of Sister Location, pieces actually begin to fall into place.
I've been out before, but they always put me back. They always put us back inside.
See, Circus Baby and the Funtimes aren't trapped in the rental facility. They can leave whenever they want. They know how to get out. The problem is that when they escape, they stick out like a sore thumb. People find them and bring them back to the facility. That's why the plan with Ennard using Michael's body has to happen. They need to look human to not get caught when they escape. Circus Baby actually straight up tells us at the end of Sister Location that she's escaped before, but that she's always put back. It's entirely possible Funtime Freddy got the same treatment, and that both of them at one point or another escaped and made their way up to the FNaF 4 house. Which I should remind you that based on the similar design and lamp, that Michael most likely ends up living in this house, and that house is above Sister Location. Hell, it's possible that the animatronics escaping is what prompted Michael to decide to go down to Sister Location, though that's a stretch. Admittedly, there's a problem with this. If we play as Michael in the Circus Baby and Funtime Freddy minigames from FNaF VR, if it's before the events of Sister Location, why does Circus Baby act as if this is her first time seeing Michael when she first talks to him in Sister Location?
I don't recognize you. You are new.
In that case, it's possible that the minigames show that the events of the Funtimes escaping and going up to the FNaF 4 house is canon, but that the gameplay in those areas are not. Or maybe we somehow play as someone else in these events. Either way, I feel like this makes sense. The only issue is the actual gameplay side of it. Since the Funtimes disappear after Sister Location, and since they're the main point of Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, years following Sister Location, the rental facility would definitely be abandoned, which would also allow the animatronics to get back in and out without getting trapped again. See, Circus Baby and Funtime Freddy aren't the only Sister Location animatronics to get minigames though. In fact, I think that Ennard's level is arguably the most interesting of all of the minigames in FNaF VR. One of the most interesting parts of the Ennard character is his evolution into becoming Molten Freddy. What's interesting about Molten Freddy though is that he somehow still has Funtime Freddy's head, however mangled and destroyed it is, despite Funtime Freddy being left behind in Circus Baby's entertainment and rental. Molten Freddy also has one extra eyeball in his body, and strangely enough his name is Molten Freddy. Molten as in burned. While this may be a reference to the molten metal, the missing children's incident remnant which is inside Molten Freddy, I'd find that a bit weird because that molten metal was injected into the Funtimes, meaning the molten thing in this case wouldn't be exclusive to this form as Molten Freddy. That seems to me to imply that calling him Molten Freddy is referencing something else, and since Ennard is Molten Freddy, we may have seen that play out in Ennard's vent repair level. At the end of the level, we make it to the boiler room and we light the furnace. Then the hatch of the furnace opens, Ennard hops in, and he screams. At the end of his vent repair, Ennard gets burned. This would very well explain why his name ends up being Molten Freddy, and considering the different coloring on Molten Freddy's mask, that Funtime Freddy head and maybe parts from other animatronics were being disposed of, and could have been being burned in the furnace, which would explain how Ennard rebuilt himself with broken pieces of Funtime Freddy. So basically, some of the leftover Sister Location characters could have been being disposed of in the furnace, and then we lit the fire, burning the Funtime Freddy mask, and then Ennard went into the furnace, he himself burned, and then used the broken pieces of Funtime Freddy's face to rebuild himself. This would have been after the other Funtimes separated from Circus Baby and they went back to rebuild themselves. That's not where Ennard's vent repair stops being interesting though. It seems like Ennard wasn't the only one who returned to Circus Baby's entertainment and rental to repair themselves. In Ennard's vent repair on hard mode, there's an appearance of Dark Springtrap. And to those of you who are unaware, Dark Springtrap is the Springtrap that we see at the end of Sister Location, the version of Springtrap who burned in the FNaF 3 fire. Springtrap apparently appears in Sister Location after burning in the fire. We know Springtrap has to have repaired himself after the fire with another suit, but in that case, where did he get the suit from? Well, since he used the place for his remnant experiments with the scooper, it's possible Afton decided to return to the old rental facility, and maybe he has another Spring Bonnie suit down there, the one from the original Fredbear's Family Diner. I talked about this in my most recent mini-theory. Hell, the scooper injects remnant, and Sister Location seems to imply that remnant can regenerate you beyond just preventing death. So since Afton's corpse is very different in FNAF 6, it's possible he used the remnant in the scooper to regenerate his body. Another very interesting thing about Ennard's vent repair on hard mode is that in this level, the same level where Springtrap appears, we see Phantom Freddy walking around for what seems like no reason. He doesn't attack us, he doesn't do anything except appear. Now, the reason I bring this up is because the Fazbear Fright story What We Found shows Springtrap giving the main character Hudson hallucinations of his past, implying not only that Michael is the player of FNAF 3 and therefore also was one of the protagonists in FNAF 2, but also that Springtrap created the Phantom animatronics. So if Springtrap is here in hard mode Ennard vent repair, that could explain why Phantom Freddy appears. Now, that concludes everything there is to talk about with Ennard's vent repair, but we're not done with vent repair as a whole. Mangle's vent repair is also a very interesting minigame. See, Mangle's vent repair level also appears alongside Curse of Dreadbear, Plush Baby, and the Build-A-Mangle level in the Pizzaplex in Security Breach. So if these areas exist in the Pizzaplex and they were real events, is it possible that they happened within the Pizzaplex? Mangle in particular is interesting though because they have 2 of their FNAF VR minigames in Security Breach. Not only that, but the Pizzaplex also has Kids Cove, which in FNAF 2 is Mangle's domain. Since basically every other area of the Pizzaplex has a main animatronic, wouldn't it make sense if Mangle at some point was an animatronic at the Pizzaplex, or was intended to at first, like Ballorian Cleithrophobia, but was removed leaving Kids Cove empty? Mangle going haywire could be what the FNAF VR levels with Mangle are depicting. You may think that maybe Foxy was meant to be the animatronic in Kids Cove in the Pizzaplex, but we actually learn in Ruin that Foxy had an attraction that was originally supposed to exist where Roxy Raceway was, with the log ride, but that never opened, and Foxy was replaced with Roxy, so Kids Cove isn't for him. It makes a lot of sense to me that Mangle was in the Pizzaplex, but then in the Build-A-Mangle and Mangle Vent Repair minigames they went haywire and were removed from the Pizzaplex, and then those events were put into the VR game. And finally, the Plush Baby minigame room. Security Breach has a room that is filled with plush babies and has the same general design as the plush baby level from FNAF VR. It would actually make a lot of sense if the real life plush babies attacked someone in this room, or maybe that they just exist. We know they exist from Ruin, and when you look at them but then look away from them, they disappear. In the actual plush baby minigame, if you find a plushie but then look away from them, they often disappear. The plushies that we find in Ruin match the ones we find in the actual plush baby minigame, so it makes a lot of sense if they're the same ones, and that the minigame was inspired by the room and the plushies rather than the other way around. As for the parts and service minigames, there's not really much to say except that they could very well have happened in the 5 to 6 year time span that the FNAF 1 location was open, and all this would explain how and why all the FNAF VR minigames were real events. As I said, it's mostly speculation, but there's a lot of cool pieces of information that just really add up if all this is the case, so I honestly think it makes a lot of sense. But what do you guys think? Do you think that the FNAF VR levels are real events? Let me know in the comments, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!